The Boston Marathon, presented by Bank of America, has thousands of runners running for thousands of reasons.
I'm running to raise money for Achilles International, so amputee athletes can keep running too.
For every mother counts, because all women deserve access to quality maternity care.
For St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, and every kid with cancer who just wants to be a kid again.
Join Bank of America in supporting this year's runners. Give if you can at BofA.com/help-a-cause. References to charitable organizations is not endorsement by Bank of America Corporation. Copyright 2024.
John!
What?
Red 7!
I don't know what Red 7 means.
Hot route!
I don't. What is hot route?
Will you just go stand on the other side, please?
Down! Come on. Ready, down, set, hut, 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 hut!
Hit me! Booyah! That's what we call a sack lunch. Nom, 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 nom.
It's time for the Soonerscoop.com postgame show presented by Eskridge Lexus in Oklahoma City. Eskridge Lexus is the official travel partner of Soonerscoop.com podcasts. Now, here's your road crew, Carey, Eddie, and Bob, wrapping up all the action and reaction from this week's game.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is the Eskridge Lexus post-game show, and most of all, we are happy to be here after a win. They won. We titled the podcast this week, Just Beat Kansas. Don't lose to Kansas. Do not lose to Kansas. And they came through. And, boy, Vegas, hats off to you folks. That was
it's a cover. It's a cover. Can I take a page out of Barry Switzer's book and say, we beat Kansas? Is that not how – that doesn't ring as true as we beat Texas.
I love it. No, it's 700 yards of offense. Look, we got a lot to talk about. It wasn't all great. It looked good for a while. But like we've been talking about, Eddie, just play – just show some progress. Just show us a little progress.
No.
And look – Kansas didn't have their starting quarterback, but we knew they were coming in here with a run game that it's a little bit problematic for Oklahoma. Yeah. I mean, they have not played well against running teams, against zone read, against misdirection. And, you know, talking to Ted Roof after today, like, I think I said, like, maybe the dumbest thing I could have said, which he laughed at. I said, you know, since you guys have lost Billy Bowman, you've done some things that seemed like were going to work pretty well.
And they just did it.
And he was like, did you watch? I felt like he was like staring a hole through me that was saying, did you watch the last game, son?
Yeah. No, they did,
but,
obviously.
But Key Lawrence, I mean, he was a big addition today in the starting lineup.
Well, and from where this thing has come, like where it's coming from, defensively, obviously, when you give up 42 points to Kansas, it's not going to be the prettiest thing. In fact, I think, you know, at the beginning of the year, if we would have walked in here and said that, oh, Oklahoma gave up 42 points and they only won by 10, you would have thought it was a disaster. But, you know, all things considered, where this thing has come from over the last couple of weeks, it was a
it wasn't the
step.
Davis Bevel show today.
Yeah, it was a positive step in the right direction.
Actually, I mean, 700 yards of offense. Dillon Gabriel throws for 400, over 400 for the first time in his career. The downside is he has 3 turnovers.
Sure.
One of them might not have been his fault. I still have to go back and rewatch. Everybody, like I was on the Scoop account, and it was pretty mild today. It started getting a little janky toward the end of the game.
I think everybody just wanted to win.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it was truly, I told somebody before the game, just as far as when you debut the Unity uniforms like they did today, honoring Greg Pruitt, they couldn't have dropped him at a more perfect time just for the fact that it was almost like a holy shit, just don't lose to Kansas. We don't care what you wear.
Well, they have to wear them the rest of the year now.
Just every game now.
Well, if they would have won like 62-24.
Sure.
And it was headed in that direction.
No, it was.
But
no,
it obviously didn't finish that way.
You know, I walked out with a staff member, I think we can say staff member, out of the post-game press conference, and we had a nice little discussion just like, number 8's pretty damn important back there in the OU backfield. Like getting Dillon Gabriel back there was just a calming sense for a lot of people, and he played well. Like he didn't miss a whole lot of throws today. He missed some. It wasn't perfect, but you know, obviously the 3 turnovers, that's something that you can kind of overlook, I guess, when you end up winning the football game. But it was a strong performance offensively today. It felt like whenever they needed something, they basically got it. And I think that, you know, it's a step in the right direction. You know, more than anything, Carey, I think that here over the last couple weeks, and I asked Eric Gray about this after the game, it's not the sexiest thing to talk about when you get shut out at the Cotton Bowl. It's not the easiest thing to talk about when they, the way that they played down in Fort Worth or even against Kansas State. But it's an offensive line that seems like it's kind of starting to come together a little bit, and they're really able to run the ball. Eric Gray with a really good day today, 176
dude, he
yards.
ran for 176 yards. I mean, Javonte Barnes played a lot today, but you can still kind of smell the freshman on him. Like, he doesn't know how powerful he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he can, that he can run through some of the tackles he's able to run through. Like, he's trying to dance around a little too much still. Eric Gray was, perfect today.
He's been great, man. He's been really, really good. And I think that, he talked a little bit about after the game just as far as the offensive line getting a little bit more feel for what he likes to do when he cuts back and gets across the grain. So it was a really good day on the ground, obviously, for Oklahoma. They rushed for just under 300 yards, or just over 300 yards. I guess the net ended up being 298, but I don't know. Did they end up taking a couple away because of the knees at the end of the game? I don't know. It doesn't matter. They had 316 yards on the ground.
They do take those out. So
Eric Gray, though, 8.8, and he was really good in the passing game as well, catching the ball out of the backfield today for Oklahoma. So
he's one of those guys. He transferred to Oklahoma, wanted to get on a bigger stage. This year has not been the bigger stage that he expected, but he's making himself a lot of money. He's becoming one of those guys that everybody wants in the NFL, whether it's Alvin Kamara or take your pick of kind of, smaller backs that are good in the pass game. Like, I'm not a big fan. I don't have time for fantasy football, so I don't know all those guys who they are. But
sure,
everybody in the NFL wants one of those guys.
No, it was, and I think it's kind of a growing sense here over the last couple of weeks that they've really started to find something. Robert Condrell got in there a little bit at guard today for Cade Mattower. It just felt like, and especially the drive that they end up, unfortunately having to kick a field goal. There in the fourth quarter, what was that, 15, 16 plays where they just basically said, we're coming at you. We're going to keep it on the ground. You guys can stop it. And I think that kind of –
and it made them use up all their timeouts.
Sure,
which, at the end of the game was important.
Sure.
I'll tell you this, like, Mike – I say I had an interview with Braden Willis. It was more like a discussion, and it kind of started out like this. Like, I think the way I categorize this offense so far this year is – early on, you wondered if there were enough balls to go around. Like, you had Marvin Mims, you had Theo Wees, you had Drake Stoops, and you have Jalil Farouk coming on, Eric Gray carries. How are you going to make all these guys happy? And today was a day where it almost seemed like they could have used more footballs because everybody was getting in on the action. Theo Wees was in on the action today. They targeted Marvin Mims 16 times in this game.
Did they really?
Catches. Yes.
16?
He got targeted 16 times in this
I don't
game.
know what's crazier, the fact that he had 16 targets or the fact that Drake Stoops had a career high receptions. Are you looking at it? Mm-hmm. 4? For some reason, I would have just thought it was more.
Yeah. But they did a lot with him in the run game, too. Which was –
yeah.
Look, Jeff Lebby – for all the criticism he took last week for not benching Davis Bevel, that guy, first off, he came up with the Wildcat. They didn't use it at all today, which I thought maybe they should have on 4th and goal.
I thought there was a couple times that they
direct snapped it to Eric Gray when he was in the backfield.
Okay, but it wasn't like
Dillon
technically Braden Willis.
They never sent Dillon Gabriel out to receiver and ran it. But they had one play, there before half where they put Chris Murray in as a fullback.
Yeah.
So they were trying all kinds of you can criticize Jeff Lebby all you want. He's coming up with some really good shit.
Yeah, for sure.
And today I thought he just said, okay, we've stunk the last couple of weeks. We haven't had Dillon Gabriel. Now we have him back. Let's go show everybody what our offense is about.
And they were really good on third down early in the game. It seemed like, this was the first time maybe in the entire season that they really got some momentum coming out of the gates. At the beginning of the game. And, I think that kind of stuff kind of carries over. There was no panic on the sidelines, and you were able to build a lead, even though it was 14-14. It felt like that was an Oklahoma offense of old where when they needed something, they were going to go get it. And it was just, I guess comforting in a way to see the offense moving at that pace because we really hadn't seen it here over the last couple of weeks, and for the obvious reason without Dillon Gabriel. But, they played really, really well. If you want to be critical about the offense, obviously the 3 turnovers, that can't happen. and then the snafu before half. I mean, that's one of those things. Even when you're up 14 at halftime, that you go, shit, is that going to come back and bite them?
Well, that to me, that's kind of the story of the day. Is Brent Venables spent so much time last week talking to the team about the 05 team. When Rhett Bomar was a young quarterback and Paul Thompson, they lost to TCU to start the year. The 09 season where your guy Sam goes down against BYU. They have to basically go to a completely different, 5-wide offense. Their defense was really good that year, but their offense was just okay. And just talking about those teams that struggled and like how they stuck together and how a lot of those players say that those were some of their favorite seasons at Oklahoma. Like they spent this last week trying not to lose this team.
Yeah.
And to go out and get a win today and to play well in a lot of areas, especially offensively. Now, we're going to talk about the not-so-good stuff. We've already talked about the goal line thing. But you go into bye week, and now, like we were saying, like how many people are going to transfer? How many people are going to go home, talk to their families, and be like, I don't think Oklahoma's working out for me.
I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, especially going into this bye week, that you just had to wonder, how they were going to respond coming off of the 3 straight losses. It was so important for them to go over the next 13 days without playing a game with some positive momentum. And I think that it was, it was really interesting to me hearing some of the guys talk about it after the game. It just kind of, it felt like a sense of relief more than anything. Like, shit, we can win football games again. And, Braden talked about it. Deshaun White talked about it. The leaders of this football team talked about just that importance and
because
going
the
out
coaches,
and playing well.
The coaches aren't in their ears all the time, but they're in that locker room. And Braden Willis and Deshaun White need to be, their voices need to be heard. Yeah. And their reinforcement of you guys are doing the right things, just keep at it.
Yeah.
Like, they're not going to just be, tune everybody out.
I mean, how long had it been since, like, truly, like, over the last, they hadn't led a game since November 17th. We had talked about that on the Unofficial 40 this week. But, I mean, truly, they had not had any positive momentum within the program over the last 3 weeks. It had just been so ugly and so bad since that Kansas State game that, I think that they can finally go to bed tonight, not having to worry about all the bullshit that's going to come with another week of just being drugged down and, the negativity around the program just as a whole.
And the fans and social media.
It felt like, it almost felt like.
And the media.
Yeah, it's like, but.
Us.
Well, I mean, and they deserved
all the
it.
time.
They deserved it the way that they've been playing. But I think that, going into this bye week, it's going to be really interesting to see just how refreshed they are when they come back out against Iowa State, because there is a little bit of okay, you can breathe again. You're back over 500. You got a first conference victory. And, I would say that the feeling around the program today is, quite different than what it was, 5-6 days ago when we were doing the doom and gloom post-game pod coming back on the heels of a 49-0 loss to Texas.
Well, I was, it's really funny too, because I know you've had this and I've had people come up to me and be like, man, I really enjoyed your pods, your post-games the last couple of weeks, because we brought everyone together. We really had a discussion. It was kind of therapeutic, I think, for a lot of people. But I was talking to someone on the elevator coming down there like, are you doing a pod today or tomorrow? And I was like, oh, we're doing it today. Like,
we're doing it out of the way.
We're doing it on Saturday. Like, we don't need to have, the gathering of the minds to have a podcast. Like, you and I were just so spent, like, mentally, emotionally after that Texas game.
Yeah.
Like, we just looked at each other and we're like, how do we do a pod?
I mean, it was just, it was so bad, too. I mean, and it almost felt like you don't want to come in here and just, talk about excuses by any means, but the offense that they ran out there against Texas, it just was never going to come together. You were never going to be able to find a recipe to be able to beat Texas with that. So it was a positive step for the program today. I think that there is a little bit of just almost a sigh of relief that you don't have to go into these next 13 days personally. And I'm sure that you probably feel the same way, Carey, that the next 13 days, if they weren't able to win today and you're on a 4-game losing streak and you don't play a game, it would have just been hell. It would have been absolute hell.
Someone actually bought some merch at halftime, and I was like,
thank God.
Okay. Like,
thank God. The world is healing.
The world is healing.
The world is healing. It did feel like, and there were moments today. Like, there were moments where, you get up by 3 touchdowns in the second half. You're like, okay, are they going to be able to kind of, really pull away? And they weren't, but at the same time, it never felt like it was close. And I think that was kind of a sense of relief in terms of, just the way that this whole thing has been over the last couple of weeks. You kind of wonder where the program was going at times, and it just felt good today to be able to kind of sit back and watch a football team that looked somewhat familiar to the team that we kind of became familiarized with over the first 3 games.
Well, and, it's like we want Brent to succeed. I mean, we want to see him have success. I mean, and not just because we know him and, have known him for so long, but he's recruiting well. Like, he's good for this program. If the on-the-field stuff works, like he's great for the fans. I mean, the fans today, they did the announcements of the lineup announcement. Brent Venables got as big a cheer as anybody. Dillon Gabriel definitely got the biggest when being announced as a starting quarterback. But it was like a very large cheer for Brent Venables. The fans have his, he has the fan support. And I think if you get this thing to work on the field, man, this could be he could take this program to new heights. I mean, even higher, I believe, than Bob Stoops.
It's amazing the difference in tone that we're talking about of Brent Venables here today than we were last week when it was like,
But I think he kind of deserves it because
he did,
he's
but
holding this thing together.
And he's navigated it.
Yeah.
He navigated it to get to this point.
Show. Yeah.
It has been. And I think that, that tells me more.
And it's not fixed. I mean, I don't want to sound like that.
No. I think everybody would know what you're saying in terms of he's navigated what could have been an absolute, I don't want to say make or break, but I'm telling you, you go into this bye week on a 4-game losing streak, and all of a sudden I think that there is some very serious conversations to be had just as far as what the direction of the program is. Who knows how many guys that you could lose out of that 2023 class over the extended period of time when you're going into a bye week. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be able to get out onto the road. I know that the big Allen Denton Geyer game's coming up on Thursday. I think that they're going to be sending a big crew down there to that. I think that we're probably going to end up going down there on Thursday night. So
I'll go down there.
Yeah, we
get Eskridge to get us a car.
We definitely do that. And Jackson Arnold was at the game today. He sees Jeff Levy put together a 700-day performance. It was just a good, positive kind of breath of fresh air that this program just truly hasn't had over the last month and a half.
I'll tell you this: to talk about just the atmosphere today. I was a little concerned when I walked into the stadium. It was just quiet outside. People were just kind of milling around, but there was no excitement. You didn't even really hear people talking all that much. The food truck lines weren't all that long. And you could see, the upper decks as you're walking in, okay, those aren't that full. And the corners were bad. The student section was bad. You know what?
I will say,
it did fill in once
there
the game
were more
started
people
going.
there today than, around 10:45. I was like, okay, this is not going to be a good crowd.
Yeah,
it ended up being a pretty good crowd.
It filled in really good.
Yeah.
And that I'd say the northeast end zone that looked empty kind of filled in. I couldn't see, the people underneath the press box on the second level, but it did remind me that it used to be so good with the old South end zone. That's when you could tell that, people weren't interested in the game. Remember the Kansas State Halloween game when they lost
Yes.
and then the bus driver got pissed off?
Yes.
That was a really empty south end zone that game.
No, and
now it's like we haven't really been through this to where it's a down season.
Sure.
So it's hard to tell, okay, does this mean that people aren't here? Does this mean it's bad? Is it this bad? Is it not so bad? But no, I give it up to the fans. They filled it in. It was another sellout, so the streak is intact. With Baylor coming to town, you go to Iowa State, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to get through it.
Yeah, and I think that, it was just, I guess, kind of reinforcing the idea that I think for the most part, there's a lot of people that understand what this thing's going through right now. You're obviously going to have the people that get pissed. They want you to win 50-0.
They don't want to listen to why it is like it is.
Yeah, and but I do think that there are a lot of people that kind of understand where this program is right now, why it's in that spot right now. And again, it's kind of like we talked about on the U40 here over the last couple of weeks. It wasn't about them losing the last 3 games. For me personally, it's been how they've lost the last 2 games and just how embarrassing it's been for when you look up at the end of the first quarter and the game's over. Like, you don't even the game doesn't need to be played out. So it was a good positive performance. I thought defensively kind of is what it is. I mean, it's still a work in progress, very much so. But there were some bright moments, whether you want to say, like, C.J. Colden making a play, Deshaun White. I thought the linebackers as a whole.
I mean, there were times it was like the Deshaun White show. I mean, he did some really good things today. I thought Danny Stutzman played one of his better games. David Igwebu was leading the team in tackles at halftime.
No, he did get picked on that first 3rd and 13.
Yeah.
The tight end just ran right by him.
Look, here was what, I talked to Ted Roof about this, and I can't remember whether you were with me or not.
Yeah, I was over there.
But, Brent kept talking about the run fits, like he couldn't figure out why the fits were so bad. And then you see Kansas, you see them play, and you're like, oh shit, that's going to be a real problem for Oklahoma, with their being so bad at run fits.
Yeah.
And I think you have to take the first half and the second half differently but the first half, that was what impressed me most, is that they were in position on the running, most of the running plays.
Sure.
Now, they had kind of the reverse jet sweep that broke for them a couple of times.
And I thought at the times, really good play calls.
Yeah.
Like, you just got beat. And sometimes you got to reset.
There was like an option where I think Stutzman actually
strung it out
and sacked the quarterback for like a 1-yard loss.
That one, and then Jane Davis played the pitch man as well, really well, over on the east side of the sideline stadium.
Yeah. But that's like, okay, it's a complicated thing. For a team that struggled with run fits, running the option could be a very complicated thing, and they did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah.
Now, where I think you're still dealing with a team that has some psyche issues, because when Dillon Gabriel would have the turnovers, he had 3 of them. It was like that team, they just tanked mentally, or almost like emotionally. Like, it was like they could not overcome the fact that they were having to get out there on the field. A negative play had happened, and they just didn't have that mentality of, okay, well, I think one time they might have got it back after a turnover. The defense stopped.
I think that was the C.J. Colden. Or the
C.J. Colden.
Was it C.J. Colden or the Deshaun White? I thought one of them came after a turnover.
Right. It did. Well, I remember one turnover got nullified because the defense stopped him, and I can't remember how that happened just off the top of my head now that we're sitting here right after the game. But like, that's the thing. It's like you saw some progress, but you still see things that are like, okay, this is something they got to work through. But it wasn't all going to get fixed in one game, and we all knew that. And we just, we were just kind of like, just show some progress.
Yeah.
Like, give people some hope. Give
I
the
was
players
saying
some
play
hope.
4 quarters.
Yeah.
Like get into a game where you have a chance in the 4th quarter, and obviously they took care of that today. And, I don't think that everything is going to is fixed. Like, I certainly can't sit here and say that they're going to win out or do anything like that. But it does feel like, and, a lot of it too, Carey, I think just goes back to the fact that when you got 8 out there at quarterback, that offense just moves so much better. Like, it's almost night and day different. Well, it is night and day. It's not even almost.
You had a quarterback that threw for 38 yards last week. He threw for 403 today. So
I think
that's night and day right there.
I think somebody said it might have been Nate when he came by here earlier, the great Nate Fake, and a quitter of journalism. But it was, I think he said his first 3 throws went for more than 38 yards. Like, that was the first series today that he had thrown for more than Davis Bevell did a week ago. So, I mean, it was, obviously very kind of calming today, and I think that it's only going to get better. Hopefully they continue over the next 5 to make progressions each week, and we'll see. But then again, Iowa State coming out of the bye week, that's a really good defense.
Yeah,
that's a really good defense, and it's going to be kind of a test.
Do they
up
play
in Ames
next week, Iowa State?
That's a good question.
You never want to play a team coming off of a very difficult loss. And apparently Matt Campbell almost lost his mind like he did in the Big 12 championship game today.
Today?
Yes.
Oh, down in Austin?
Yes.
I didn't see that.
So apparently there was a play late where Iowa State fumbled the ball back over to Texas, but it appeared to be targeting on the player that knocked the ball loose. He launched himself and put his shoulder right into the guy's head. And then the ball came loose, and Matt Campbell, kind of like Sonny Dykes, wanted to kill some people.
both teams coming off of a bye in 2 weeks up in Ames.
By the way, this is a problem next week, in 2 weeks. Little inside baseball here for you. Bob Przbillo was up in the press box. Bob Przbillo really appreciates people that have food for you after games, which most places do. Like, you went to Nebraska. They have one of the better setups. They give you a pizza and stuff after. They have like a cafeteria you go
honestly,
into.
everybody does nowadays.
Yeah, pretty much
TCU
everybody
has
does.
pizza after the game.
Yeah.
Nebraska had pizza after the game. We're not asking for much, Mike. Get a little pizza shuttle up there.
So,
although I never went up to the press box today, so I can't really bitch.
Well, I told Bobby he'd come over here. We'd get dinner. But I saw but Iowa State, they don't do post-game meals.
Well, I mean, Iowa State, they'd rather kill you than you be there for like an hour after.
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
we might not even be able to do the post game because Brent's going to be taking so long.
Oh my God.
I mean, they might turn the lights off on us here in 2 weeks up there.
Yeah, we might have to have Sunday post game for Iowa State.
Yeah, depending on what time the kick time is. But
that was like. Was that no? That was Kansas State when we did it in the car driving back, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah,
or KU,
yeah. No, it was one of those. I think it might have been Kansas State.
We would definitely be doing post game if I were going up to Ames. We'd be doing post game in the car on the way back. Yeah, but Iowa State, they literally do as soon as the final buzzer sounds, they want you out of the press box.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
Crazy.
Like because you're in that end zone thing that they do all the post game stuff at. But no, it was, was there anything that like just really surprised you today? I thought that Robert Spears Jennings showed a little bit.
That surprised me. And he got a lot of
CJ Colden starting
Ted
to come on. Do you think like the CJ Colden emergence? Like I still don't get that entire thing with DJ Graham. And he was out there today going through pregame as a wide receiver, but he was still wearing number 9, so he couldn't get onto the field anytime that Braden was out there. And obviously, he didn't play today for anybody that didn't know. I think he was on special teams.
What do we take from, from Mr. Ellipsis on Twitter? Did you not see?
Jaden Gibson?
Jaden Gibson.
I mean, do you want my honest opinion?
You're a freshman. My opinion. You're a freshman.
Shut up. You're a freshman.
Yeah, last time we saw you on the field, you dropped a pass to hit you right in the gut.
I mean, and you would hope that that's something that LaDamian Washington or Jeff Levy
or Marvin Mims.
Marvin Mims or whoever his guy is down there, they kind of take him to the side and be like, shut up, dude. You just put up.
Theo Weiss got
our
2
offense
catches.
just put up 700 yards today.
Yeah.
Like, what are you bitching about? And maybe it could be like one of those things too that. It could have meant nothing. Like that, it's one of those coincidences that, it's not the best look when you're bitching about playing time.
People that don't know what we're talking about, Jaden Gibson just simply sent out a tweet with like 3 periods.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm gonna choose not to read into it. Like the Brian Darby stuff was kind of weird earlier in the week.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I'll be completely honest, didn't even look for him today. Don't even remember if I saw him today. But it was if you're wondering why we're stumbling over this.
Oh my God.
Caleb
Williams just went from a safety to a 30-yard gain.
It doesn't hurt as bad right now after putting up 700 yards as maybe it would maybe a week ago. But like Jaden Gibson, that's one of those things that in a way I just go grow up. And
he's freshman. He's going to grow up.
But it's super interesting because then you look at a walk-on like a Gavin Freeman, makes an incredible diving grab today.
God.
Just somebody that obviously has earned a lot of respect from those guys, whether it be Dillon Gabriel or Jeff Levy or Brent Venables, Jerry Schmidt. We talked about that way back in August. So, it's not that big of a deal. You can't really make it into a big deal because I don't really know what he was intending with that, but. Just shut up, dude.
I mean, look, Key Lawrence, I think, is probably one of those guys that had every opportunity to go out there and be an ass on Twitter. You know what he did? He said, I'm going to have a good week of practice, and I'm going to prove that I deserve to be on that field. And he started today. And you mentioned Robert Spears Jennings, like we were talking to Ted Roof, which, by the way, Ted Roof, away from the podium, just in a kind of more of a, informal setting, I really enjoy talking to him. And you'll see the video. I mean, you got the video up already on, on
the
site and YouTube.
I mean, he was always one of those guys that I'm sure fans don't want to hear this shit, but like I had been contacted from somebody at Auburn that covered him at Auburn.
Yeah,
I wasn't gonna sell anybody under the bus.
Jay
but
doesn't care. He likes having his name.
He was like, if you ever get a chance, go get a beer with him because he will tell some stories.
Yeah.
Really good guy. But again,
but he was the reason I'm where I was going is Jaden Gibson. You're upset that you're not playing, but so is Kip Lewis.
Yeah.
And so is Robert Spears Jennings.
Sure.
They're doing things at practice to get on the field.
Sure.
I mean, Ted Roof was asked Jaron Kanek. He was talking about how proud he was of him and impressed, and seeing him out on the field tonight and doing things. And Robert Spears Jennings, he brought him up, and someone asked, well, who else has really stood out? And he said Kip Lewis.
Yeah. Which is a positive, and he was a guy that obviously was going to redshirt, and then he got thrown into a situation where you might have to see a little bit of the field because of the Shane Whiter injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to sit here and say that he flashed. He made one play against Texas late in the fourth quarter, but it was still one of those plays that it's kind of like the play that you saw with Jaron Kanek here. I guess it would have been back at the Nebraska game where you go, that guy there's an instinct there that he was able to find. And when we're talking about, OU going to find, and we talked about this with Josh this past week, when we're talking about guys like they need to go find football players with an instinct for the football, with a nose for the football. That's exactly what we're talking about, is it not? Like just somebody that can read a play, can evaluate it, and in a matter of a second, go make a play on the football.
I guarantee you, we have been hoping for a win just so we can avoid some of the drama on the board and just on Twitter and getting people excited about maybe buying some merch at SoonerScoopStore.com. But one guy I know that is extremely happy tonight is Ed Eskridge because he loves him some Sooners, and he has not enjoyed watching what's been happening the last 3 weeks like all of you guys, but. Eskridge Lexus, one of the great sponsors of all of our pods, and certainly appreciate them and thank them for being taking another year under the hood with us, being our official travel partner. We are very honored to have them, but just a great dealership. If you're looking for something and you need something better than a Hyundai, guy across from me.
I don't know who you'd be talking about. Do they have sunroofs in Lexuses?
My sunroof.
I'm just making sure.
You just drove an IS. It probably has a sunroof.
I'm just making sure.
No, but the new car inventories are still pretty limited, but they are getting better and better. So if you know that you want to look at a Lexus, I mean, even if they've got one that someone at the dealership is driving, they'll let you take it for a test drive. That's what they did with me when they were really, really low on cars. So just let them know what you're interested in. They'll tell you what's coming in. You can kind of get in line for something. If you're driving by all these car lots and you're like, okay, they don't have anything. They might not have anything, but they've got stuff coming in, and they are not going to charge you a bunch of extra fees. They don't ever charge over MSRP on a new car. And they never charge a dock fee or make you pay for accessories that you really don't want. So visit EskridgeLexus.com for the most up-to-date inventories, or book your next service appointment because those are important. Lexuses will basically run forever. Just go and get them serviced like I do. So thanks to Eskridge, Lexus, and Ed for always being a big part of the pod. So, I will say this. Like, one of the things that I think I've been – and it's not just because of the Texas game, but I really think like Braden Willis is finally. You remember my man crush I had on him like 3 years ago. To me, he's really starting to live up to his potential.
Well, and he's starting. And you asked him about it after the game, just as far as being physical with the football. I thought it was kind of interesting. He said he has more freedom right now.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what necessarily that means.
I think that they're just using him more. Like,
sure.
Lincoln
he had over 100 yards today.
Lincoln used the H-back, as kind of a surprise.
Yeah.
And I think they are using Braden as a weapon.
Well, he was very much like you could tell early in the game, too. They were going to make throws easy for Dillon Gabriel. And
get him in rhythm.
Get him in rhythm, find something. And, I think that it definitely paid off because – even like in Gavin made a really good ball play on the ball, but those are just balls that they were not connecting on earlier in the year. Even the ball to Theo Weiss that went for a touchdown. Those are just not balls that they have been completing at a high rate right now. And I think that they were able to get him into rhythm. And obviously, Braden, with the way that they started, I don't know what they started in the first quarter or the first half, but I bet they were every bit of 6 for 7 or 7 for 8 on third down. And a lot of that was to Drake, and a lot of that was to Braden Willis early in the game.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, Drake was involved. I mean, Marvin Mims getting 16 targets is just unbelievable. But, he had a huge smile on his face after that game. Like, it's always interesting because Marvin is a guy that doesn't really hide, when he's upset or, when he's happy. And, like, that's another one of those things I thought, like, okay, well, that guy's in a good mood. That's good for the offense going in the break. And
I think more than anything, when you talk to Braden or you talk to Marvin, I think Bob went over and got Marvin today, but there has to be a little bit of a sense too of just like a sigh of relief when you're pouring everything that you have into this program or into this team, trying to be a leader and especially navigating it through these tough times, and you're not seeing results. And for somebody like a Braden Willis that, Bob wrote about it on Thursday or Friday morning, just as far as being a guy that, he came back. He could have left. He wanted to make a decision to come back to the university. And I'm sure that there's times like where he gets by himself or he's talking to Jeremiah and he's like, did I make the right decision? Like I'm trying literally everything, and we're playing like shit. Like, and I have a sense of responsibility. I have a little bit of burden on that. So, happy for him. It was cool to see him, kind of come together. And, like you said, Carey, he is a guy that is really probably making a lot of money for himself. I mean, from a pass catching standpoint, obviously what he's put on tape through the first, 6-7 games of the year, just from a blocking standpoint as well.
I think we should probably give a little credit to, if we want to kind of talk stock up, stock down, I think stock up for the defensive line today. I mean, they played a lot of bodies, but they had 8 tackles for loss. Not all of them by those guys, but
still not getting pressure per se, right?
Only 2 quarterback hurries. But against this offense, I mean, they roll Bean out so much. I mean, they did make him pull it down and run it, which isn't always good. And then OU kind of started spying him late in the game. But 8 tackles for loss. I mean, you're getting back into that territory of where you want to be. I mean, remember, this was a team that led the nation in tackles for losses after 3 games.
It's amazing. It's amazing just kind of what happened with the drop off. But and I guess in a way, you're doing it without Billy Bowman back there. And I think that, he was playing the best football out of anybody on the defensive side. And to be able to kind of get away with not having him out there because of injury, it has to be, a step in the right direction. You can at least kind of start building something and going into the bye week, and then again coming out of the bye week against an Iowa State team that's probably not the best offensively in the entire country, obviously. But, you can just kind of feed off of it, and then you get into Baylor, then you get into Oklahoma State. Tech's going to obviously be a little bit of a problem. We saw what JT Daniels did to Baylor on Thursday night.
Right,
so, it again,
before and after.
It's not perfect by any means. When you give up 42, I still think that Kansas can move the ball a little bit. I guess in a way that they're thankful that Jalen Daniels didn't play. But all things considered, from where this defense has been, it's a step in the right direction. And, I don't know if anybody wants to really hear it when you give up 49 like they did a week ago, but you're starting to stack some pretty good quarters on top of each other. And, it's one of those things that you almost kind of got to look at the positives. Of course, there's some bad in there. The drive after Zach Schmidt hit the field goal to put him up 17, it's awful.
Yeah.
There's no getting around that.
Yeah.
But they were able to get some stops. They were able to force some turnovers. And you just hope that you can continue to stack and you can continue to build. And, maybe you give yourself a chance to win a couple games here going down the stretch and, again, get bowl eligible.
Well, let's say this, too, because, I mean, we're not sitting here saying, oh, great, it's fixed.
No, by no means.
And the players weren't approaching that at all in the postgame. I mean, if you go and watch all the videos and read the stories, you can see, like, nobody's sitting there saying, finally, we got it all fixed. Like we said earlier, this is a process. Brent Venables knows it's a process. The players know it's a process. Like, you have to show incremental improvements. It's not all going to just happen. So, that's the thing about I think that you have to be happy with today, and the players do know it. Like, Deshaun White, when we were talking to him, it was like he mentioned it several times. Like, yeah, that's good, but everyone had the but this happened or but that this wasn't any good. Like, nobody, like, as a fan, I can't really say don't worry because we can't figure this team out week to week, but don't worry that that this is going to their heads. It's not. It's just like the way that you mentioned the big drive, the very quick drive. What was that like? They had like 7 plays and 75 yards. Like 149.
After they went up 17.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something. It was, I had it right here. Where is it at? If I can read a box score, I can give you it.
You're going like old man Eddie. Let me just look in the papers.
Well, goddamn, I can't find it. 7:75. Yeah, you're right. Minute 47.
Oh, I was off by 2 seconds. But yeah, I mean, like those are moments, and by the end, you just should not have been in a game where you were like, okay, if they get the onside kick, it's like it never should have come down to an onside kick, and OU recovered it twice, so it wasn't a big deal. And then they kicked the field goal for the insurance. And part of that's probably a little bit on Jeff Lebby, too, for not running the clock out like he decided to do on that one drive. So, there's a lot of rough patches today. It's not perfect, but it's a win.
I mean,
and it's against a team that's beaten a lot of people this year.
That's right. And like, again, from where this thing is coming from, I know that it's like, I don't know, I guess it's a moral victory in a way, but like, I mean, I think that there was some very serious fear that like Oklahoma was not going to be able to beat Kansas, and it's a win. It's a win.
I want the OU fan that's like, look, I just want to be the team like West Virginia and Baylor. Like I just want to be like Texas Tech, where we know we're not winning the conference, but we want to see it go down to the wire every week with us having a chance to win it.
No doubt. And
like in the last 2 weeks, you felt like that team didn't exist in an Oklahoma uniform.
No,
like every game was going to be just a bludgeoning, and that this program had fallen so far that it was going to take years for it to come back.
Well, I think that there was a serious worry too that like. And we talked about this on the postgame pod. We talked about it over the last couple of weeks, Carey, just as far as have they just tuned Brent out? Like is there an element of has he lost this team in the first year of his career? Like 6 games into this, which would have been, that is fireworks everywhere. Like, holy shit, you got to do something here.
Well, and I was still getting it on the Scoop account. People just aren't going to stop, and I have to just learn to let this go. But, like, the other thing is I wish this put to rest the whole dumbing down the defense so they could execute something argument, because that's not going to happen. Like, you can keep saying that until you're blue in the face. Brent Venables is not going to dumb down his defense and play some half-ass version of what he does so guys can get lined up correctly. That's just never going to happen with him.
Teddy Lemon talked about it after the TCU game. They're busting a cover 3. Like, it doesn't get any more simple than that. Like, I think that, like, that it's one of those things that I think in a way mentally it makes everybody feel a little bit easier about the situation when you go, well, that was just a bust. Everything's a little too complicated right now, when in reality it's a play that should just never be busted. Mm-hmm. So I think that hopefully you can take some confidence out of this. Hopefully you can take a little bit of momentum into this week. And, I think it's going to be really important to build off of this, because this is kind of a spot. And, OU at times today didn't do a really good job of. There are moments in a game where you can hit the accelerator and just pull away from somebody. And they didn't necessarily do that today.
They haven't learned to do. I mean, this was a shell-shocked team coming into this game today.
Sure.
I guarantee those players, they probably weren't thinking much past, well, let's get out there and not screw up the next series. Yeah. I don't think they're in the frame of mind to be like, if we punch one more in, they could quit.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have a not just even a killer's mentality. They don't have a winning mentality right now.
No, and
they've got to develop that.
Yeah, and I think that that's where you look at the next 12, 13 days before they go up to Ames, that you really hope that they grow. And they're able to find a little bit more of an identity. And I think that they did that offensively today. And it might just be because Dillon was back there. But, I thought something that was interesting that, it doesn't mean the difference in winning the next 5-6 games. But I think it is just a great example of like Dillon Gabriel's leadership around the program. When he was talking about, this week during the film session, everybody was kind of spread out in the red room. And Braden said, like, he stopped the film and got everybody to move up to the first 2 rows. Like, I know that's like one of those sappy, like, leadership moments, but I think that, like, that's the kind of shit when you are in the spot that they've been in over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You need that shit as a part of a program. You need that in the locker room. And, if you want to extend it even more, like, that's the kind of stuff, if Dillon Gabriel were to come back next year, like, this would be his program. And it probably already is to a certain extent.
It's kind of like when I say, Eddie, let's work on your camera work a little bit.
Maybe. We had a good day shooting today.
I'm looking forward to seeing the footage. Let's just face it. Last time you shot OU Kansas, it didn't go so well. Oh, that looks beautiful. Yeah, we're good. Oh, okay. We haven't talked about the uniforms.
Probably not my favorite, but they look better. They look better than they did with the.
I thought that would be the
with
case.
the release.
Yes,
with the release.
I like that the numbers were flashy, that were shiny. I like that.
It's
kind of like the Ohio State.
Yeah, it is a little bit. I do like the helmets. I thought the helmets are pretty cool, but again, it's kind of like one of those fan things. It's not. What I think of the uniforms nobody gives a damn. It's do the players like them, and the players seem to like them. Obviously, it's for an important reason with Greg Pruitt. So I thought that they did a pretty good job with it. The unveiling and all that kind of stuff. If you're one of those people that sits out there and bitches about like they need to wear the home uniforms, like that's one of those statements that you're just never going to get it. Like you don't get it. You're never going to get it. Whatever. So. Caleb Williams. I mean, it's just it's every Saturday that I come home. I'm just trying to have a beer, talk about OU.
And they're always playing late at night.
I know. It's just every damn weekend. That was a hell of a catch by Mario Williams.
Williams, man.
But I thought the uniforms were pretty cool. Do I want to see them every weekend? Obviously not. But
and realize too, it was a big recruiting weekend.
Yeah, it was a big recruiting weekend, and we'll talk to Josh here on the Unofficial 40 this week about Colton Vasek in Austin, and I know that his statement that he put out, he gave somebody an interview today, and I'm sure it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers. But I guess like kind of my almost kind of quick takeaway is like, what's he supposed to do? Is he supposed to just sit at home when his family goes to the Texas game? Like, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe the writing's already on the wall, and I just don't want to see it right now. But I guess in a way, he's still technically committed to Oklahoma. So we'll see. I think defensively it was a step in the right direction. Hopefully it's something that you can continue recruiting him. Obviously,
I mean, is Brent's policy official visits though?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's how he's kind of skating around a little bit. But I don't know. It is what it is.
Well, it's going to be a much better week this week. I know.
No, it is. It is.
We might be in your face with some Lindsay Street merch and stuff like that more than we have been.
They just needed to win a football game, and I think that for a lot of people, it didn't matter how they did it. They just needed to win a football game, and they were able to do that today.
I think it was a good day for the fans. It was a little strange that people were leaving with a 14-point lead.
It was kind of miserable out there.
Yeah,
for a
it was
little bit.
That sun was beating down hard.
It was hot, but it is what it is. Shout out Toby Rowland. I think I got my name called on the radio broadcast today.
I'll say this: you were. It was a magnificent gather and kneel down.
I mean, it was.
But you hit 500 today.
Well, no, I'll tell you what happened. Zach didn't kick he one-hopped it to me. How am I supposed to catch the ball on a one-hop? I thought it was going to come up and like hit me in the balls. That's the last thing I wanted to do. I got booed.
I
got booed by the stadium down there in the north end zone. I got Spencer Rattler treatment today.
You need to get with Kelleher and see if you can find out if Zach Schmidt is finds you before the game and is trying to kick it to you.
I would hope so.
because like you need a game within a game. He's always kicking it out of the end zone. Like if we could keep a scorecard on how many, like maybe we can get some betting going.
Yeah. I like that.
Like how many times can you actually hit Eddie with
I was
the
actually
kickoff?
kind of surprised that I caught it on the fly. Yeah.
There's a short hop that you
the short hop is the one that got me. But I did display maybe one of the most powerful arms to ever grace the field of Owen Field early in the game. I rocketed one over to the East Side Stadium side to one of the ball boys. I mean, absolute dime. You can ask people.
They'll be talking about it.
I do appreciate all the people in the north end zone that chanted my name, though. But they were the same mother that booed me, too. So I caught myself there.
You can't lose the fans, Eddie.
Once
you lose the fans, it's over.
Those are my people. I celebrate everything that they do down there.
I will tell you this, just a little, maybe some post game. We got a fire truck.
It's Campus Corner. That's a fire truck, is what that is.
The new nightclub might be on fire.
No, that wouldn't be the worst thing.
Might be some code violations.
That wouldn't be the worst thing in the entire world. They're the ones that took Sugars away from us.
Isn't it just the Sugars people, the heist place?
I think they sold it, and I actually know the people that own it now, so they're good people. I don't mean that it actually burns down.
Are you going to go over there and DJ after this?
No, I don't think so. I'm an old man these days.
No, what I was saying, I can't even remember the fire truck completely. What was I saying? Was I hinting at something?
Just kind of setting up for this week. I think that, like, I don't believe that they're going to have a Brent Venables press conference on Tuesday. I think we're going to probably talk to him on Wednesday. Just kind of a precursor for the week. I don't think that we're going to have a normal practice schedule because of the bye week.
Well, and the other thing, is it was brought up after the game about some of the players had mentioned that they didn't, they kind of got to take fewer reps and take more mental reps this week, and maybe that helped them feel better and fresher. I mean, they ran 100 plays. I mean, that was a lot of physical football action out there today for those guys.
There still is like an element of like, I don't think that Brent Venables is really buying that shit.
Well, he said in his post game, he thinks, he told them like they would do 20 less. Like he makes it, like tell him he's going to get like they're going to have fewer sessions, or and they're going to take it easy on him today. But he only cuts practice by like 20 minutes, and it's more of a placebo kind of thing.
But I do think that like it's not. I don't think it's practice. I don't think that like they're physically worn out. I think there's a lot of mental, like just being in meetings and just
being up with Schmitty in the morning, finishing practice
doing
at 8 o'clock.
I think what you said on the unofficial 40 this week is very valid. Just as far as moving the practices into the evening, they're up there later than they've ever been, and at the end of the day, is an excuse probably, but it's just a different schedule that these guys are having to get used to. Because
they were on the morning schedule for years.
And that by no means is that an excuse for going out and getting just absolutely embarrassed at the Cotton Bowl. It's not an excuse for the way that they performed down in Fort Worth. But at the same time, I do think that there is a little bit of they needed this bye here at the right time, and we'll see if they can build off this. This is it's not a championship performance, I think, as Josh would term it on the report card, but I do think that it was a much-needed step in the right direction.
Utah has end-zone loge seating down low. I've never seen that before.
I think you can go in there and get converted to Mormonism. Is that what it's called? I don't even know. I don't know.
There are Mormons at the University of Utah.
They're not in BYU.
It's not a religious school.
How about the day of football that we had, just sitting here after the game?
I'm so happy for Josh Heupel. I really am.
It's pretty cool.
I don't think he'll ever talk to me again after the way things finished in 2014. I asked him the question, do you think he'll be coaching here at Oklahoma next year? It's just one of those things you got to ask because the entire fan base wanted him gone. But really happy to see him beat Alabama today. It's unexplainable. Like, him as a head coach, I haven't been around him, but even at UCF, I mean, it almost felt like, Danny White took over that athletic director job and kind of saved him from, just floundering at UCF with like 7-5 records. I never expected this.
Yeah.
I mean, he has some type of a magical touch as a head coach.
He's done a really good job, obviously, and it is really cool to see him find some success. He's gonna be the face of college football here over the next week and a half.
Yeah.
From what Tennessee was able to do today, Tennessee, obviously a program like that, when you knock off, it kind of has a lot of, ironically enough, it kind of has a lot of 2000 OU Nebraska vibes as far as like a statement, we're back. And Tennessee was able to find that today. And you're right, it is cool. Joey Hosley's out there with him as well.
Right. Yeah.
Somebody that's been a big friend of the program, obviously, and it's cool to see them find some success. I'm sure that Coop and Joe John and those guys are giving hype, and and Joey
and even Levy.
Tonight.
I mean, they were
and
close.
Levy,
Yeah.
I'm sure that they're getting a phone call tonight. A little bit of a congratulatory, step in the right direction for that program. So,
and then what a day of just complete madness with Spencer Sanders rumors.
Yeah, that was nuts. Like, so last night I'm at a charity event up in Oklahoma City, and there's people saying that Gunner the Gundy family's all gone down to Fort Worth because they're gonna watch Gunner make a start today, and then you wake up and right as we were kind of going down for pregame stuff, everything's kind of blew up on Twitter. Like, is Spencer Sanders not playing today?
I think it probably hit the OSU message boards.
Yeah.
And then
I got on my burner and I was just making up rumors.
Because my brother texted me. I was on the way to the stadium, and my brother's a big OSU guy. And he texted me, Spencer Sanders is out, Gunnar Gundy's starting. You had already told me the rumor, and I just, like I always do, I didn't even respond to the text. But it's and I was texting Scott Wright, who I kind of work with at the Sports Animal, saying, hey, heard some weird stuff. You might want to check around. He's like, yeah, we've been hearing stuff all week. And then I think Jenny Carlson in the post game was telling us he hadn't practiced all week, and it was just bizarre. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't us going through that.
Sure. Oh God. I mean, we've been there before, and obviously a great game. Congratulations to Sonny Dykes and the TCU program. 6-0, his second year in Fort Worth, first year in Fort Worth, obviously. It's kind of come together. Max Duggan playing really good football. I mean, my God.
And it sounds like if you enjoy Matt Campbell meltdowns, you need to rewatch the Texas.
Yeah,
Iowa State
I need
game.
to go back and look at that.
End of the game, apparently a fumble that turned the ball over, ended up losing the game for Iowa State, and Matt Campbell thought that there was targeting on the play, and it looked I saw the replay. It certainly looked like it.
And it sounds like Iowa State had a chance to win the game. Kyle
they had
Weatherly,
a deep pass that got dropped at the 5-yard line.
That's what Kyle told me as we were waiting on Brent to come in. So, Texas obviously a little bit typical for them, just as far as coming off of a big win. It was always going to be a tough game.
The hangover game,
against an Iowa State team that has kind of had their number. That I think they had beat them 3 straight times. So. The Big 12, man, every week in here over the next couple weeks is going to be really fascinating. I think TCU and Kansas State play next week, which will be a big game up in, I believe, Manhattan. I don't think
State,
that's in Fort
Worth.
Worth
Off this week?
Yes,
yeah.
I believe so. But, it's going to be really kind of fun, and it all kind of started on Thursday with Baylor going out to Morgantown and losing in a game that I don't think a lot of people thought was going to happen like that. So Blake Shapen, kind of the same injury.
Of course, Shapen, the same thing as
Dillon Gabriel. That happened to Dillon. So, who knows what's going to happen with Oklahoma here over the next, I guess 2 months or whatever it's going to be. But it does feel like for the first time in a long time, we can sit here and say, okay, maybe this thing's maybe it's going to be okay. Maybe they're going to find their way here. And, you just hope that the defense continues to make improvements, continues to build foundation for what, Brent and Todd Bates and Miguel Chavis and Ted Roof and all those guys, Brandon Hall, Jay Valai, all of them want to be able to do.
Well, it's been the other thing to think Oklahoma for and the players is you got a Saturday night, late night post-game podcast.
There you go.
Because we forgot how to do it as long as the team was playing like crap. So we're happy to be back, happy to do it. Going to be back again on Wednesday for the unofficial 40. So thank you to Eskridge Lexus. And we'll hear from everybody. Josh will be on the Monday Morning Idiot and have lots of stories still to come, 5 plays that stood out. And by the way, Go to the YouTube page, Sooner Scoop, also Sooner Scoop Editorial, 2 different YouTube pages for all the videos, and there will be a Sights and Sounds worthy of Sights and Sounds.
I mean, finally, I feel like it's been forever that we were able to put one together. But trust me, over the last couple of weeks, you don't want to see it.
You came up to me after the Texas game, like worried, like I was going to be mad.
I mean,
you were like, I swear, there's not even 5 plays that I can put on tape.
No, there really hasn't been. And Bob will have the 5 plays that told the story, telling the story tomorrow on the site. Just like there truly has not been anything that we would want to put up. Like I promise you.
The YouTube comments are not kind, and they would not have been kind to those. So. All right, that's going to do it for us for this week. It's a bye week next week, so we'll be off next weekend, but we'll be back after Iowa State. But the Sooners headed in the right direction, finally it appears, as they win it 52-42 over Kansas, moving on to the bye week. So thanks for listening. Thanks to Eskridge Lexus, and we'll catch you next time right here on the Eskridge Lexus postgame podcast.